The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, often simply called the Soviet Union or USSR, was a nation of immense scale and stark contrasts. It was a superpower that spanned continents, influencing global politics and economics for much of the 20th century. Sprawling across 11 time zones, it encompassed a vast array of cultures, languages and landscapes. From the icy tundras of Siberia to the bustling streets of Moscow, the USSR was a land of incredible diversity. Yet, despite this diversity, life for its citizens was largely shaped by a single dominant force, the Communist Party, and its control over every aspect of society. The party's influence permeated every corner of life, from the highest echelons of government to the most mundane daily activities. From the moment of birth to the day they died, Soviet citizens lived within a system where the state dictated the terms of their existence. Education, healthcare, and even family life were all under the watchful eye of the state. This control manifested itself in the workplace, in the home, and even in the realm of personal beliefs. The state sought to mold its citizens into ideal Soviet individuals, loyal to the party and its ideals. The promise of the Soviet system was one of equality, security, and collective progress. The state promised to provide for all, ensuring that no one would be left behind in the march towards a utopian future. However, this promise came at a steep price: the surrender of individual liberty. Personal freedoms were sacrificed in the name of the greater good, and dissent was not tolerated. The Soviet state, founded on Marxist-Leninist ideology, aimed to create a classless society where the needs of the collective outweighed the desires of the individual. This vision was pursued with relentless zeal, often at the expense of personal freedoms and human rights. This ambition, while noble in theory, had profound consequences for the everyday lives of millions. The reality of life in the USSR was often one of hardship and scarcity, with long queues for basic necessities and a constant undercurrent of fear. The Soviet Union was a place of grand ambitions and crushing realities. It was a land where the dream of a worker's paradise often clashed with the harshness of daily life. It was a land where scientific breakthroughs coexisted with widespread censorship, where the dream of a worker's paradise clashed with the reality of political repression. The state controlled the flow of information, ensuring that only the official narrative was heard. To understand life in the USSR is to grapple with these contradictions, to delve into a world where security and constraint were two sides of the same coin. It is to understand a society that sought to build a utopia, but often found itself mired in the complexities and challenges of human nature. At the heart of the Soviet system lay the concept of collectivism, a principle that was deeply ingrained in every aspect of life. This ideology emphasized the importance of the group over the individual, promoting shared responsibility and common goals. It was a vision where the collective good was always prioritized over personal ambitions. In practice, this meant that many aspects of life were organized around collective units such as factories, farms, and housing blocks. These units were not just places of work or residence, but were the very fabric of daily existence. Decision-making was often a communal affair, with workers, farmers, and residents participating in meetings and committees to discuss and implement directives from the Communist Party. These gatherings were a cornerstone of Soviet life, ensuring that everyone had a voice, at least in theory. This emphasis on collective decision-making extended to daily routines as well. From the workplace to the home, the collective mindset permeated every action and interaction. Shared living spaces, communal kitchens, and even public bathhouses were common features of Soviet life, particularly in urban areas. These communal facilities were designed to reinforce the collective spirit and ensure that resources were used efficiently. This emphasis on shared resources was intended to foster a sense of community and equality. The idea was that by living and working together, people would develop stronger bonds and a greater sense of solidarity. However, it also led to a lack of privacy and individual autonomy. The close quarters and shared facilities often meant that personal space was a rare commodity. The collective ideal, while intended to create a more equitable society, often came at the expense of personal space and freedom of choice. Many found the constant togetherness stifling, and the lack of privacy could lead to tension and frustration. Despite the noble intentions, the reality of communal living was often far from ideal. In the USSR, the state played an all-encompassing role in the lives of its citizens, extending its reach from the allocation of jobs to the provision of housing. Upon completing their education, Soviet citizens were typically assigned jobs by the state, often based on the needs of the planned economy rather than individual aspirations. This centralized system ensured full employment but limited personal agency in career choices. Similarly, housing was primarily distributed by the state, with citizens assigned apartments in buildings owned and managed by the government. While this system provided a basic standard of living for most, it often resulted in long waiting lists for desirable apartments and limited options for relocation. The state's control over employment and housing served as a powerful mechanism for regulating the lives of its citizens, ensuring that individual aspirations were subservient to the needs of the planned economy. One of the defining features of the Soviet economic system was its emphasis on stability and predictability. Prices for essential goods and services, such as food, housing, and transportation, were fixed by the state and remained largely unchanged for years. This created a sense of economic security for many citizens who could rely on consistent costs for basic necessities. However, this stability came at a cost. The absence of market forces led to shortages and inefficiencies. Consumer goods were often in short supply, with limited variety and quality. The lack of competition stifled innovation and discouraged entrepreneurship. While the Soviet system provided a basic level of economic security, it also created an environment of stagnation and limited consumer choice. The Soviet Union placed a high value on conformity and discouraged individuality, particularly when it came to expressing dissenting political views or engaging in activities deemed contrary to socialist ideals. This emphasis on uniformity manifested itself in various aspects of daily life, from dress codes to cultural expression. Citizens were expected to adhere to certain standards of behavior and appearance, with deviations from the norm often met with suspicion or even censure. This pressure to conform extended to the realm of art, literature, and music, where works that did not align with socialist realism, the state-sanctioned artistic style, were often suppressed or censored. The Soviet state's efforts to enforce conformity aimed to create a homogeneous society, free from the perceived chaos and inequality of capitalist systems. However, this came at the expense of individual expression and creativity, stifling dissent and limiting artistic freedom. Education played a pivotal role in the Soviet Union, serving as a key tool for shaping the minds of future generations. The Soviet government understood that to build a strong, unified state, it was essential to start with the youngest members of society and instilling in them the values of communism. From an early age, Soviet children were immersed in an education system designed to promote loyalty to the state. This system was meticulously crafted to ensure that every child grew up with a deep-seated belief in the principles of socialism and communism, and adherence to socialist ideology. The curriculum emphasized STEM subjects, particularly mathematics and science, reflecting the USSR's ambition to become a global leader in technological advancement. These subjects were not just academic requirements, but were seen as essential tools for the nation's progress. And science, reflecting the USSR's ambition to become a global leader in technological advancement. History and social studies classes were heavily influenced by Marxist-Leninist interpretations, presenting a narrative that glorified the achievements of the Soviet system. These classes were designed to create a sense of pride and purpose among the students, presenting a narrative that glorified the achievements of the Soviet system and often downplayed or omitted its shortcomings. Extracurricular activities, such as youth organizations like the Young Pioneers and Komsomol, further reinforced these ideological messages. These organizations played a crucial role in the socialization of young Soviets, and often downplayed or omitted its shortcomings. Extracurricular activities, such as youth organizations like the Young Pioneers and Komsomol, further reinforced these ideological messages. These groups were not just clubs, but were integral parts of the educational system, ensuring that the state's ideology permeated every aspect of a child's life. And Komsomol further reinforced these ideological messages and encouraged active participation in the building of a communist society. The Soviet education system, while providing widespread access to education, also served as a powerful instrument of indoctrination. It was a comprehensive system that left little room for dissenting ideas and encouraged active participation in the building of a communist society. The Soviet education system, while providing widespread access to education, also served as a powerful instrument of indoctrination. It was designed to ensure that every child grew up to be a loyal and productive citizen of the Soviet state. Also served as a powerful instrument of indoctrination. The system was comprehensive, covering not just academic subjects but also moral and ideological education. This holistic approach aimed to create well-rounded individuals who were fully committed to the ideals of the state, shaping young minds to conform to the ideals of the state. Through a combination of rigorous academic training and ideological indoctrination, the Soviet education system sought to mold the perfect Soviet citizen, one who would contribute to the state's goals and uphold its values throughout their life. Narrator, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.